if there was a #1 reason why you've been able to be successful in your life, for me, it is listening to that still, small voice. It has guided me in every major decision.
Right.
And when I get in big trouble is when I don't pay attention, I don't hear it.
Right. But again, people
don't know to listen.
Or there's such a conversation in their head, they're confused, which is me. Okay, so now that's Mississippi, and then I was taken by a passage. You became too much for your grandmother to handle, and then you didn't know more.
You got to get me out of Mississippi.
Yeah. Okay. What were you?
Milwaukee was terrible.
Well, first of all, what was too much for you to handle? Or too much for your grandmother to handle? What was going on then?
That would be an inaccurate quote, because I became too much for my mother to handle. My grandmother actually became sick and could no longer take care of me. And this is the interesting thing, that voice inside myself again, that everybody has. I got moved, nobody told me. I was given no explanation. This is the only person I've known for 6 years of my life. Imagine this with Harry, 6 years. Now you're just put in a car and you're sent someplace else. You're told you're going to be with your mother. But I really don't know much.
Taken from your grandmother and now moved back.
Yeah. I later found out that my grandmother had been in an accident, and that's why I was being sent away, and she could no longer take care of me. But I walk into this home that my mother is renting from a woman named Mrs. Miller in Milwaukee on North 8th Street. And I know instantly when I walk into the house that I'm not welcome there. Now, you all may not know this, there is intra-racism within the race of black people. Intra-racism. Black people know what I'm talking about. So, black people, you know what I'm talking about. So I walk into Miss Miller's house, and she is so light-skinned, she can pass, which at the time, in the 60s, everybody would refer to people like that. Oh, she's passing, or she's not passing. Meaning her skin was so light that if she wanted to, she could get away with passing for white. And I know instantly, even though I've never confronted racism, been around a conversation about race because I'm in rural Mississippi, I know instantly that Miss Miller does not like me. And I know somehow that it's because of the color of my skin. And my mother has another daughter by this time, and I'm brought into Miss Miller's house on this night as a 6-year-old girl. Basically snatched out of my grandmother's arms. And Miss Miller will not allow me into the house. Miss Miller forces me to sleep on the porch. To this day, it makes me weep, makes me well up, because I just think it's such a cruel thing to do. So Miss Miller said I couldn't come in the house, I had to sleep on the porch. And I was so angry and hoping that my mother would stand up for me and say, well, let her come in and sleep with me, and she can come and sleep with me, but my mother did not. So I slept on the little porch before you got into the house. And I created these like imaginary friends and would sing to Jesus and all that to try to keep myself from feeling safe. But I never really, got over the fact that Mrs. Miller did not think that I was good enough to come into the house. And after about a year, my mother moved from Miss Miller's. But, I would always have my dinner at the other end of the table, and they would be sitting and eating. And I knew that it was because...
What year is this?
This is brown skin girl. So, I was 6, so it would have been 1960, 61.
1961 in Milwaukee. That's subhuman behavior.
Well, now I can look back on it and say, well, I know what that feels like to be ostracized. I know what it feels like to be in a room where everybody is talking about you. I know what it feels like. I know. And the reason why I say I would take nothing from my journey is because every one of these life experiences, when I started in television, really created such a bond of empathy with me and the audience. I mean, I know what it feels like to not be wanted. There is almost nothing worse than that, to not be wanted. So then you can relate to other people who feel that way. Instead of walking around in life saying, oh, I was not wanted, you create a life, as I have done, that says now I feel very wanted by all of you. And the world a stepping stone for your life,
Right.
where you can. And it gives you great, great, great compassion and empathy for people who haven't had it.
But
You take it, you turn around, and you use it.
aren't there also psychiatric studies that indicate that this kind of behavior shuts down, removes the mechanism for empathy?
It does for some people. It did not for me. And one of the reasons, I think one of the central things that I left out, I grew up in the church. So I didn't have my father for the first until I was 8 or 9. So I didn't have a father, and they just made up stories about why I didn't have a father. He didn't want you, he didn't care your father, he didn't see any money, blah, blah, blah. So I went to church and heard every Sunday that Jesus was my heavenly Father, Jesus was the Son of God, God was my Father. So when I really believed that, I really did. I was definitely comforted by the feeling that there was a power greater than myself, that was beyond my control, and that this force, this Jesus, would be looking out for me. And I remember in the first grade, first grade was in Milwaukee, and the kids came to beat me up after school because they were so sick of me in the first grade. Can you imagine being my Nicodemus and this all?
Because you were the smart kid of the class.
I was a smart kid.
And you deserved a beating.
I deserved a beating, yes.
Used to happen to be here on campus regularly.
And I started telling them about Jesus of Nazareth and all of the Bible stories. They were going to beat my butt, and I just came up with every story I could think of. So they left me alone and said, leave that crazy preacher girl alone.